An interception. Relo.
What a remarkable drive, man. That's an all-American drive right here.
It's not exactly unwarranted. Like, when you have a guy that's that electric.
The legend himself, the GOAT, Dre Crowell.
Where my warm bottle movement at?
That kills your argument right there. Anything can happen. This game is not over.
What's good, Relocation Football League fans? It's your boy Smitty, and I'm joined with a familiar face, I'd have to say, on a podcast from around the RFL community within our Discord. You may know him, of course, as head coach. Oh, I got the first game already showing, but hey, head coach of that team of the Mexico City Diablos, and it is Coach Steven Forbes. Man, welcome. Glad to have you on the show, and he is going to be here talking about because you guys already know, for guys who do know him, he's very in-depth when it comes to things relating to the playoffs, mathematics in terms of that. Even going to college, went to college and stuff for math. So and this guy knows his math. Forbes, what do you want to say before we dive into things, man? Glad to have you on the show.
It's just glad to be back. You know, the last time I was on this was a year ago for the same exact thing. You know, it's just what I do for the league.
Yeah, so Bill, unable to join us, sent me a message or he won't be able to join us because he is under the weather at the moment. And so we're just going to dive right into these games. You're going to see me looking down more so, guys. That's so I can see the messages at times. I can't do them at the side like I used to. Something's going on with the OBS. But we'll go ahead and hop into game number one, which, of course, was this man's game. And you see he's got that smile on his face. He's excited.
Yes, sir.
The Mexico City Diablos absolutely dominate the Orlando Wizards. Of course, the Diablos were the favorites to win. We expected you guys to win. This is a fantastic game, of course, with defense. Offense was doing its thing. The defense was definitely what I talked about last week in last week's podcast, right, where I was saying I don't know if Leo Moon's going to be able to handle the load of what this defense can send and how they're going to be able to get back there and pressure him. And that was evident throughout the game. You guys got turnovers, got 2 interceptions on him. I mean, Vondre Bryson literally had 7 yards rushing on 12 carries. I mean, everything was just pretty much shut down. And Tavares, I was going to say Tavares Golston because he's wearing a 27, but I don't even think, yeah, that is Tavares Golston's number. But Sheldon Reinhardt, blanking on his name. Yeah, Sheldon Reinhardt had 2 picks within this game. Absolute stud. Just the defense all around. The entire team showed out. Not really too much I could say about this one, just pure dominant performance by you guys. But I want to have your take, as the coach of the team. What was your thoughts on how this game playing out? What was your thoughts heading into it? Did it pan out exactly how you thought it might have been? Or, everything that's revolving around this game going into it and afterwards, let me know.
Well, like you said, that's what, Diablo's known for. Rob used to call me Bill Jr. I'm another coach who likes to hang my hat on defense. That's what we did. The very first drive, Reinhardt goes out, gets a pick 6. We have pressure on Leo Moon all game. And, it used to be a running joke between me and Rumble. But now it's serious. I'm 5-0 against the Wizards with 4 different quarterbacks.
Get the bell out on him.
Fours
with the first bell of the night.
So, we just came out. I knew I was a better team than the Wizards. I'm the best team in the South. I've known that for 3 years. Didn't work out last year with McCafton, but, fixed it this year with Kearney. And we're going to keep moving forward and, try to do something in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. I mean, 11-2. I mean, when we looked at the schedule, we was like, we kind of figured you'd be pretty high. We're still waiting until you get the playoffs is really the big area for you. Because like you said, you got the South on lock. The rest of the teams in the South, they're not there at that level. We expected to see this level from you guys last year, but this is how you bounce back, right? So it's good to see that you're back in that driver's seat here, repping the South, doing what you need to do, and getting dominant wins like this. And of course, like I said, step after step, just trying to be prepared for that big moment, because the playoffs is where we get to see who's the real dogs and who's not, because from you guys not making the playoffs from a season ago, you have had that slightly easier schedule. But I would have to say you kind of won against the teams you were expected to have the most trouble against, and then the teams that you did take the losses to were the ones where it's like, wow, he lost to these guys. And I think, who were those 2 teams? I know Tigers was one, and
the Elks was the other one when they started like 7-0.
Yeah, so it's just like, the fact that you still defeated those tough teams like the Snowhawks. I know you had another one on there. I just can't think of them at the moment. But the Snowhawks, even though they're not, they're kind of getting back into form. That's still a good team to beat, right? So I'm just very anxious to see what you guys do. Rummel, tough break, man. 24-point deficit, another L to Forbes, man. 0-5. You're gonna need to change this record up.
Don, I don't know what you mean by first playoff appearance. I went 12-4 my first year. The only reason I wasn't the 1 seed is because Kyle Bain had to go 13-3.
Yeah, when the Desperados, did their usual magic back then, but now it looks to have worn off. But we're going into game number 2. Good win there by Fours. Wizards dropped to 8-5. They're really playing to try to keep their playoff hopes alive at this point. So very tough loss for them. They want to try. The South is out the equation at this point. We'll talk more about that. Moving into the next game. I think this is the biggest shock of the week. And we got to play the bell. My man's sick back at home right now. He's not on the pod. But I know he was sick after this game because I didn't see this coming, man. I really didn't see this coming. The Chicago Tigers came up with the broomstick and swept the Explorers for the first time in franchise history with a crazy comeback win on a game-winning field goal. 1-point victory, 21-20. It's nothing really. I mean, just an exciting game. Big job by the defense, right? I thought the game was really out of control for the Tigers when watching this. Once I saw in the second half how fast the Explorers got out on offense, right? These guys were able to score a few touchdowns. There was like no touchdown scored within the first half. And then they just get 2 touchdowns as soon as the second half starts. They start out fast. Then they just come to a complete halt. No points scored at all in the fourth. Tigers dead all of that. And they come back and win that. They were down 20-9. So a 12-point comeback was just amazing to see. Field goal. It was a crazy decision. It was a decision that I was just like, well, I think it would be best if they kick the field goal now so that way they can rely on their defense to get a stop and then try to score again to try to take the lead. I didn't think they were going to do that, to be honest. I thought they were going to go for it on 4th down Forbes. But instead, these dudes said, we're going to kick the field goal. We're going to make it 20-18. We're going to rely on this defense that's played well for majority of this game. He did that, got the ball back. Kai Cash, who has been an absolute monster when it comes to touchdown and interception ratio this season. This guy got 27 touchdowns to 3 interceptions on the year. And his team sitting at 10-3. You couldn't ask for more from this guy. Let him down the field, game-winning field goal. And these guys are 10-3, and they jump ahead of the Explorers. Like, what is your thoughts on the Chicago Tigers in this game right now? And, Explorers still a good team, but just your thoughts even about the Explorers, after a loss like this.
Well, starting with the Tigers, man, they won this game like they won every game. I've been curious about how they've been doing this, and they're winning off of defense, and mainly it's Reese Goodall. The converted linebacker to safety.
Yeah, he's been a
I went to go look. The Tigers are 28th in total yards in the NRC file, 28th in passing, 20th rushing. So they're not moving down the field. And I think Reese Goodall has 5 defensive touchdowns this year.
That's crazy.
So their offense isn't really moving the ball down the field all that well, but their team is able to put up points because the defense is creating turnovers, doing this, that, and the other. And you saw without the, I believe it was a fumble.
Yeah.
Without that Reese Goodall fumble return, the Tigers don't win this game.
Yeah, it was punched
If
out
they
by
don't shut
Jocko
down the
Goliath.
Explorers in the second half. Yep.
Yeah.
They don't shut down the Explorers in that second half. They don't win this game. And so I'm interested to see if the Tigers can keep this up moving forward. This because we've talked about it. The Tigers swept the Explorers. So if they meet in the playoffs, I want to take the Explorers to win the third time. You don't beat a team 3 times in one season. You just don't do it.
Yeah, if I'm Stein, I'm hating this if you have to meet these dudes again in the playoffs because it's not going to happen. I don't like using the G word. We talk about the G word, the guarantee, but I'm not going to pull it out. But depending on how I'm feeling, if these dudes meet in the playoffs, if it happens, because I think they're going to both make it, then I don't know about the Tigers going 3 in a row, no Explorers, man. But you go ahead, continue.
Yeah, and the Explorers are still the reigning champ, and to be swept by the Tigers, the Explorers are the better team. Yeah. Everyone knows that. They're the highest rated team in the league, and I think Bill's just still trying to figure out how to get Daryl Johnson to work the best he can in this Madden, and he's not quite there yet. He's still got 4 or 5 games to get to the playoffs. I still think he's going to get to the playoffs. We just need to hope that Daryl Johnson's ready by then.
Yeah, definitely. And that's all you can really say about the Explorers. It's a great team. This should not really damper any type of expectations of what these guys can put out on the field, right? We know this is a very talented team that we just saw them dominantly defeat the Thunderbirds, and they might have been injured, but that was one guy missing on the team. They still had their entire offense. They still won mainly because they were able to stop the offense with 6 interceptions, 7 total turnovers. So that's what we know the Explorers can do. It's just that the Tigers 2 times just been able to catch them lacking. And I guess they were playing down to their level. Didn't work out. Beat them in their home field. And when they came back to Chicago, it was a wrap. Great job by the Tigers, man. Let's get hashtag Stein in the chat, man, because Stein's doing his thing. I got to give it out to Coach, man. He's definitely doing his thing. He's been definitely improving to make this team better. Since he came in as a coach, he believes heavily into his team. I mean, if you guys had the access like we do to look into his locker room to see how these guys are talking, like, these guys are fired up. Like, they believe, hey, we Reload Bowl champs this year, man. We doing this, we doing that. I'm like, okay, talk y'all stuff, man. But it wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for Stein and, his work ethic right now, what he's been able to do for the league, for his team. So, and shout out to Stein and those Chicago Tigers guys. Let's get hashtag Tigers also in the build. I know those guys are fired up with what they've been able to accomplish so far. And we move into the premier game section, which we had the Black Knights and the Aviators go head to head. Now, we kind of expected at this point in the season, the Black Knights to start to taper off, right? Because they shocked us in the beginning of the season, right? We honestly, we did in the beginning of the season say, hey, I don't think the Black Knights going to win a single game. If anything, they might win one. And they had some shocking wins. The fact that they came into before their losing streak just started after their auto win section, they were 8-3. So at that point, you're like, wow, I mean, Black Knights legitimately got a shot to possibly make the playoffs with what they have. It sucks because the last week, they're battling hard, right? Look at last week. They played against the Bulldogs. Bulldogs, we know that's a grade A team in the ARC. Tough team to beat. They lost by 5, 27 to 32. You don't expect the Black Knights to be hanging in there. That's a tough team, though. And then here they are against the Aviators. They were actually up. They blew the lead. Now, this is something that the Black Knights are kind of known for. They can be up in a game and then just blow it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what happened here. And McCall's one interception just came at the worst time for the team. And the Aviators were able to capitalize off of that. Marquise Washington tossing a bomb, and everything else just kind of went downhill from there. And they only lost by 7. Final score 28-21. What's your thoughts on this game? And, how the downward hill kind of went for the Black Knights. What's your expectations, honestly, that you have for the Black Knights? Do you think that they can actually change things at this point in the season? Even though they've been on this losing streak, they've been in close games. Do you think they can keep that up, maybe flip it, or is it a wrap for these guys?
I don't think it's a wrap. Looking at their last 3 games, they have the Cougars, Huskies, and Armadillos. I could easily see them going 0-3 or 2-1, depending on how they play. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say it's over. But to go back to what you said about that interception, not only was that interception costly, McCall also fumbled either the drive before or 2 drives before that they returned to make it 21-21. Mm-hmm. I said this in the chat at the Black Knights game. I could confidently say, like 5 weeks ago, the Black Knights would have been a playoff team if McCall would stop turning the ball over. Yeah. He throws too many interceptions. He fumbles it too many times. So you're losing all these close games by 1 or 2 scores, and McCall has 3 or 4 turnovers in every game. And the Black Knights defense isn't made to create turnovers. Yeah. And then I go back to the Black Knights schedule. It's like I've been saying at the beginning of the season. Yeah, they started 8-3, but they're only 3. They have 4 wins now in the season. 3 of their 4 wins are to the Sentinels and to the Pioneers, who are both the worst 2 teams in the ARC, and they have one against the Bulls. That's their only decent win this year. I think they started how we expected. Obviously they weren't the very bottom like we all thought. They're slightly higher, but yeah. So I think they're about where we expected them to be. And now that they're playing all the harder competition, it's starting to show through that they're just not quite there yet. But after another year, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Black Knights do something next year, real serious.
Yeah, and as for the Aviators, they needed this one big time. A loss at this point would have definitely made it where you're not winning it. I think they have the toughest route, if I'm not mistaken, aside from the Cougars at this point. They might have the next toughest route to try to make it to the playoffs, because I think the easiest route right now for the ARC North to win that division is definitely the Huskies, because they've got some auto wins left, and I think they only got they got 2 games with the Bulls and the Black Knights. Black Knights, I don't see them compete, but we have seen the Huskies lose some games that they shouldn't have to a weaker end team. Kind of same deal like I was talking about with your team, where they play good against great teams, But then when it comes to a team, sometimes the great teams can play down to a lower level, and then they just get shocked. They lost to the Pioneers this year, 14-12, right? Imagine if they didn't have that loss. The Huskies would easily be sitting on atop of the ARC North. And I did this math, guys. This is a shocking thing. The Huskies, we haven't even gotten to this team. I don't even think they played this week. They might have. I think they did. I'm not sure. We'll get to it. But the Huskies, throughout this entire season, has only lost by accumulated points of 9. 9 points.
How much did they lose in that Armadillos game where he threw that touchdown at the literal? That was a 1 point game.
1 point game. If you add up all of their losses, they literally only lost a total combined of 9 points, which is ridiculous.
Since you brought it up about them being on top of the North, I'll give a little playoff secret here. The Huskies beat the Bulls. They win the North this week.
Yeah, and we'll definitely dive more into that because, that's definitely all it's set up for. But it's all good. If you give a couple gems, we'll still dive right into it. We just won't, do it too frequently. But it's good to bring that up, even though we're not on the Huskies. But it is important for this topic of which we're talking about with the Aviators, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why they got to compete. They pretty much got to win out. If they don't win out, it's a wrap for the Aviators.
The ARC wild card is crazy right now.
Yeah, it's like, you lose, that's it. you got to win, or it's a wrap. Because honestly, it's really between the Cougars and Aviators how bad they want to do it. Because the Huskies, as I've talked about, and the Bulls, with the route that they have with it being so easy, they cannot afford to lose any of those games. But like I said, we'll dive in that. Not trying to go too crazy.
Yeah.
We'll get in it. But next premier game, the Dreadnoughts putting down the points on the Pioneers, 44-20, the final score. Let's give a shout out to Cam Perkins, man, for a kick return touchdown, man. That was awesome. And let's get this guy fired on the picture because I don't know why he's wearing the jersey number 5. I still haven't changed that yet. We are not allowing single-digit numbers. I just said that also to get Strawder a little bit heated. But anyway, 44-20 was the score. The Dreadnoughts flying pretty high right now, 9-4, not leading the South. They are second, but these guys still showing that they're a capable team of putting up a great fight. And this is a game they should have been able to handle this team, and they did that, right? They handled that. Javier Santana struggled mightily, interception after interception, 2 to 3 interceptions he threw, or pick sixes. Do I want to bash the kid too bad? No, he's a rookie. We kind of expect this to happen. And, it came at the worst times. But at the end of the day, Dreadnoughts handled their business, did what they're supposed to do. Not really too much for me to say about this game. I will say that this offense was a little bit lackluster to me, Forbes. Just seeing Owen Jack right here, he had the 2 touchdowns, but 154 passing yards. Didn't really seem to be doing too much through the air. They kept KJ under wraps as well. So, that was a good thing, but it still shows that they found a way to win. Those turnovers were very costly for the Pioneers.
Yeah, that's what we've been saying about the Dreadnoughts all season, though, is if you can't get OJ to KJ, the Dreadnoughts offense is not existent. Is what we've been saying. But, this is what you expect. At the beginning of the season, I predicted the Dreadnoughts to win the South. This is what you expect out of this team. And I honestly don't mind the Javier 3 interceptions. He's a rookie. They're eliminated. Mm-hmm. Let the kid throw it and see what you got, prepare for next year. Yeah. So, there's just not much, to talk about with this game. I do want to call out DJ Evans with the 100-yard game.
Yeah, he's a dog.
He's
going to be a dog, man.
Give the rookies their praise when you can.
Yeah, shout out to DJ Evans. Let's get hashtag DJ in the chat, man. He did go off in this game. That's one guy I forgot to mention. Good job there for bringing that up, man, because he's just really – I put him in the 2 spot the last 2 weeks, and he's showing out. He was making some plays in the slot, but he took that outside position away from TJ Reynolds, which was hard to take away from him because that guy was balling too. He had a 200-yard receiving game, and he's still balling. I think, if I'm not mistaken – Did Reynolds also have 100 yards? Reynolds had 100 yards in this game as well. So
he might have.
Yeah, so Reynolds had like 101, and he had a late touchdown, which was the last touchdown they had. It was Javier Santana threw it over his shoulder, and he just burnt the defense. So these wide receivers for the Pioneers is crazy. Definitely want to give DJ his shout out, though. The rookie is eating. But at the end of the day, Dreadnoughts get it done. Much needed win, and they had to get that done. It is another blowout. We're going to get into kind of a quick segment because these next 2 games were straight domination. The Condors, they did the Lancers dirty. Chase McCoy, 3 touchdowns. Nate Mickens, Cornell Mickens, 3 touchdowns. The entire offense for the Condors was completely unstoppable. Mickens is a dog, man. He's leading the RFL in rushing touchdowns now. You know, your boy
Yep.
was
Stole
up
from
there,
Axel.
man. You know, and I think Cornell Mickens, I kind of been saying this in the commentary for the last 2 to 3 weeks about him. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but this dude is going off. Like, if you're not watching Cornell Mickens, this dude is definitely one of the top backs in the RFL right now. And you pair that with Chase McCoy and with the way he's been able to get this offense going, this is a dangerous offensive team. But of course, we already know defense is usually the problem, and we can credit the defense of the Condors here in this game for handling business right. But it's also tough to even say how great their defense is because it's a rookie quarterback, Joseph Fontanez, out there. He had threw his first interceptions in his career, but he still had a pedestrian game as a quarterback. I mean, he was literally, what was that, 50%? Yeah, he's
Yeah, a little
just
over.
a little over 50%, 167 passing yards, which wasn't the greatest. D'Amico Brewer, all around down back now. He didn't really keep the game going. These are rookies, and we already know what's going on with the Lancers at this point in the season. They're just playing their guys, and the Condors took full advantage of that. Got the win, 45-14. Anything you want to add on to that, or?
Just like this is a win the Condors needed. Another loss
Yeah.
to a team that's already eliminated just would push you farther out. They're already in the 9 or 10 spot, so it's good that they got a win. It's good that they're starting to learn they can not only rely on Chase McCoy, they can rely on Mickens if they need to. And hopefully moving forward, we see more of that.
Yeah, and if their defense can play as good as this, against better teams, that's going to help them out tremendously. Not saying it's no Relo Bowl team or anything, but we all know that. But great showing there. Gunners, took a tough loss a week ago. Last time, they played the Shamrocks. It was a tough loss. They lost by 7. It was 27-34. I'm pretty sure the score was. And the Gunners destroyed the Shamrocks here in this game. Jabri Jackson showing why he's a 2-time MVP in this league. 32-37, 1 yard away from 400 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. He was hitting all of his wide receivers. Ronnie Nickens finding a way to get in the end zone. DeAndre Can leading the guys in yards with the 2 touchdowns as well. This was just a fantastic day by Jabri Jackson. They limited Tom Wilson, and that's kind of what you really need to do. The run game for the Shamrocks is kind of crazy because they don't average well when they run with Gadsden. He's like well under, I think he's even under a 3.5 yard per carry average, at least heading into this game. He probably got better because he did well, 10 carries, 78 yards. But outside of that, they haven't really able to do much. They just run a lot and get a lot of yards, but it kind of stagnates the offense. Tom Wilson usually creates the plays, and it really hasn't happened that much this season for these guys. Both teams came in 6-6, and the Gunners, they just explode on offense. Young Shamrocks defense just wasn't ready, and the Gunners defense handled business as well. Didn't give up many points, so that that's a great sign, and they still have their playoff hopes alive. So that's a great win for them. Still got a lot of work to do, but yeah, very impressed with this win by the way they showed out. Anything you want to take away or talk about from this game here?
Like you just brought up, with this loss, the Shamrocks are eliminated from the postseason this year. But this was MVP Jabri Jackson that we saw last year. It's the one time we saw him all season, and it came when they needed him most. In the NRC, the team that gets to 7 losses you're done this year. You're not going to have the weird thing we had last year. We had 2 10-7 teams make it. If you get to 7 losses, you're out, and that's it. So they needed this from Jabri Jackson, and they needed this from Ronnie Nickens, and they're lucky they got it.
Yeah, big time win. Some tough games though to come, and I don't know if we're going to be talking much about the Gunners, so I guess I'll bring this segment up. Just a talking point about the Gunners is with their playoff situation, it's tough to think about the first half of the season, right? Because I look back, I mean the Tigers are a tough team, but I do feel like this team at that point should have been able to beat them, right? If they got the win there, boom, they'd have been looking good. Second loss that they had, Desperados got the win there. They should have been able to win that game, right? And now they're playing better, but it's just like, man, when you look at the teams they lost to, if you had just got maybe one of those games, two for sure, they would have been sitting really nice at trying to make the playoffs here. And it's tough if you're a Gunners fan because now you have to pretty much pull out an absolute miracle with what's left in order for you to make it to the postseason. But they have a chance, right? They have a chance, and that's all you want to have.
I mean, they have a chance when your last 2 weeks are the Steamers Explorers, and you can't lose either of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Assuming, yeah,
That's
assuming
what
you get
makes
past
it
the
tough
Monarchs next
because
week.
like it's almost like a trade-off. If you had beat one of those teams that I mentioned, you could have lost to one of them. But now, and you know what's even tougher is those teams that you beat are in the playoff conversation to take a spot that you need. So it's like, yeah, that's what makes it tough for the Gunners there. We'll get in, of course, more into that, and then we get into this game right here, which was, I'd have to say, game of the year. We haven't seen a single team come back from a 21-point deficit this season. The Cougars got it done. They did it against the Bulls. I thought this game was over. The Cougars came out in the first half so flat. I was like, yo, these guys are going to get murdered. This is going to be a blowout. They already got shut out 2 times this season, 44-0 against the Aviators, 30-0 against the Huskies, 2 division opponents. And then here is another division game they're about to get shut out in. And I was like, oh, man, it's over. But then out of nowhere, these guys just sparked it. Geno Gannon got into a rhythm, didn't have no turnovers in this game, which was huge for them. 340 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Hodge had some crucial runs, even though they still kept him under wraps, but he had some crucial first down gains for these guys. They made the right decisions at the right times, and they were able to get it done, send it into overtime. It was 28-28. The craziest play was the decisions, though, as the Cougars went for it on 4th down, called the toss play, which we know is dreaded. It's tough to get that toss play on 4th down. Didn't work out for him. Then you see Wade with this crazy throw deep down the field. That's probably the most pinpoint accurate ball down the field on a whim that I've seen. Put it right over Chris Polk's. He couldn't even make a play on the ball. That's how good the pass was. So he couldn't even get credit for that. Just having a step over him is what made the play possible. But that had to be a picture-perfect throw. Wade made it. They were in field goal range. That was the game, right? Kick the field goal. Dudes try to score, and Wade looks to pass, gets sacked, fumbles the football, and is picked up by the veteran, Edmund Whiting, and he takes it to the house. That's by the way, Forbes, that's probably the fastest I've seen a D lineman move, because he kind of shocked me when he was running. I was like, yo, who is this? Is this a linebacker or something? And I found out it was Edmund Whiting, a guy who's been here since season 1. I had to check my man's speed. It was an 84 or something like that, which is impressive for an old head and a defensive end, but it looked more like a 90, a 91 for a D lineman or something, the way he was moving. And at the game winning scoop and score, and they won it in overtime 34-28, man. Huge win for the Cougars. Once again, for all these teams, pretty much, it's win out season. You got to win out. You want to win the division. It's definitely tough for the Cougars, but this was a much needed win after suffering 5 straight consecutive losses. What's your thoughts on both of these teams? You know, what does this mean for the Bulls now having their first loss in division play? Started out well. They were 3-0. Now they're 3-1. And, you know, the implications of what's coming up this week. You know, what's your thoughts on these two teams right now?
Well, you know, just to start off, I want to say Dunn said it right before this on his little podcast that this is the game that the Bulls lost, not that the Cougars won. When you go up 21-0, you can't, or I think it was 21-3 at halftime.
Yeah,
you just can't.
But it was 21-0. Yeah, so
it was 21-0, 21-3 going to half. You can't lose the second half 31-7. You know, when you have that lead.
Yeah.
So I don't know what adjustments the Bulls did if they decide to stay the same or whatnot, but you just can't let that happen. No, congrats to the Cougars. But if you go look at the Cougars, this is their first RFL win since week 3.
Yeah.
You know, because
that was against the Celtic Tigers, right? I believe it was
against the Celtic Tigers.
Yeah,
Because they lost 5 straight. Yeah, they lost 5 straight and then had 4 auto wins. So it's nice to see they're getting back, but in terms of implications, it's, you know, what we were saying earlier, the Bulls need to win out and then win the division, but they have to play the Huskies and the Cougars. And I have to double check, but I don't think the Cougars would have to win out, but then everyone else in the division also has to lose 2 games for them to win the division. The Cougars do not have a clear shot. They're more likely to make a wild card spot. Well, no, they definitely needed this because if the Cougars would have lost, they probably would not have had any chance of the postseason this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. As for the Bulls, I mean, are you concerned now with them taking their first loss? I mean, it was a good showing, a tough way to flame out at the end, in the second half. But the Bulls, they're still sitting pretty. We already know the situation with them. But are you concerned, with that loss?
I'm not concerned with the loss. I don't think, like I said, being outscored 31 to 7.5 is going to happen again. Hopefully not. If it doesn't, we might need to start questioning Baxter and what he's doing in the locker room at halftime with his team. But I think this still all falls on Devin Wade. He's still, I want to say, a middle of the pack quarterback right now. Everyone had him, including me, at the bottom of the league in quarterbacks. He showed he's not as terrible as we all thought, but he's still not anywhere near the top. And I think if the Bulls really want to do something serious, Devin Wade's going to have to take another step.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those points there. Big win for the Cougars. They stay alive for the moment. And we move on to another team that came back from a deficit. Now, this was the most banged up the Thunderbirds have been coming into, well, this is a little bit least of the most banged up they've been because they had Wayne Norman, Daniel Severio, and Alex Warren-Cola missing from injuries, right? They at least got back Wayne Norman, who contributed. He got an interception within the game. You could see his presence. He, running the football was definitely not as easy. I mean, Kenny Still literally had 39 yards in this game. You know how tough of a runner he's been this season. So the defense was back to an extent when it comes to, not being that easy to score on. But it did take some time for that to really set in because the Barons really got things going in the beginning of this game, and it almost felt like, hey, it's over for the Thunderbirds right now. I think it was 17-3, if I'm not mistaken. At one point,
Yeah, it was something
17-3, and we haven't seen anything out the Thunderbirds offense, which has been completely healthy for the last 2 to 3 weeks. So I was like, man, I don't know if these guys would be able to spark anything. We know LC3 at any moment he can, but he was in the dumps. He threw a few interceptions in this game too. He just came off of throwing 2 RFL games ago. Then he threw one, which isn't bad, but he also didn't throw much but 1 touchdown, I believe, in that game as well. So his production really wasn't escalating that well throughout the time heading into this game, and he wasn't starting out too well. But then he just gets the flow going, gets on the streak, 39 of 49, 400 plus passing yards. Still did have those 2 interceptions, but boy, he made up for them after those turnovers. London Lions came back to life because honestly, this is not the same London Lions. We know he's taken a step back. He's not the same guy, but he looked like that same guy that night. And if it wasn't for London Lions turning up the way he did, Thunderbirds, I'm not sure if they would have been able to come back to win this game, but that's what they needed to get things fired up. And LC3 and the Thunderbirds, they get it done. But, the game ball, in my opinion, has to go to London Lions with his performance of 10 receptions, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just being clutch when they needed him, making a catch by any means. And if they can have this type of performance by their offense, this is what makes the Thunderbirds unstoppable, right? And also, got to play the bell for Ryan Brinker here in this one. And the out routes was terrible for him. He missed multiple out routes within this game, and they were there. Like, those routes were there, and he just couldn't hit the out. The out was literally it was the same exact route, and he did miss a couple more passes that were there. But I would have to say, still was good pass rush that kind of threw some of those off. But those he could have hit. You need a good quarterback to be able to hit those. And I'm not saying that Ryan Brinker isn't a good quarterback. He's a decent quarterback. But yeah, I guess the Thunderbirds defense didn't pan out too well for him that night. What's your thoughts, on this Thunderbirds coming back, getting this win, the Barons now being eliminated from playoffs, which you already knew coming into this game. Thoughts on everything around there?
Well, this isn't any offense to Roland, but it really felt like the Thunderbirds went out there and said, "Oh, we're playing the Barons." Let's not worry about it. It's like we're playing the Barons, and then they were like, "Oh, wait a minute, the Barons aren't bad. We're the Thunderbirds. We got to fix this," And then they came out. They started playing the way they're supposed to play. They started getting the pressure on Brinker. That's another point I want to bring up with the Thunderbirds is Max Knight and Isaiah Ingram just aren't popping off the way they have in past seasons. If you look at them, I think they both have, 8 or 9 sacks that are real good. But that puts them at, I want to say almost 15th and 16th in the NRC. And I think that's what's really missing from the Thunderbirds to make them the best team.
Well, also to add to that, which I'm glad you bring that up because from looking at them statistically, looking at them on paper, yes. But if from watching the games, these quarterbacks, and this is one thing I even brought up even in the game, they've got a time clock. They know they got to get that ball. Like every quarterback that they play this season is getting that ball out instantly because guess what's happening? Almost immediately when the play starts, one or both of them's coming immediately off. But the quarterbacks are just they've done a great job against the Thunderbirds getting the ball out their hands. But that can be dangerous, and that's what makes the Thunderbirds dangerous. Because okay, they may not show up on a stat sheet, but what does that lead to? Interceptions, forced pass plays or short throws you have to make when you know you need more yards. And I think that's where they're making their impact more so. Now the Marcus Knight situation, yeah, he's not necessarily getting off like he necessarily supposed to, but I think also, for guys.
Max Knight?
Yeah, Max. Oh, I thought you were talking about the running back, Marcus Knight. Oh, never mind.
No, I'm talking about both the ends.
Okay, yeah, no, okay. And at defensive end aspect, that's where I think they definitely are contributing. It's just that quarterbacks are doing so much better getting rid of that ball before they actually get there.
I mean, I meant like, obviously they're still elite in what they do, but like if they've been 10 out of 10 the last couple of seasons, I feel like this year they're like 8.5. They're still really good, but they're not as dominant as they have been. They're still by far the best pass rush duo in the entire league. It's just there's a noticeable difference between how they looked last year and this year to me.
Okay, differences of opinion we could definitely have there, but I'm anxious to see how the Barons kind of goes with things because for everybody who knows, Woods was on the hot seat, right? And this is honestly just what I wanted to see from the Barons, right? It wasn't necessarily that. I think the guy is just straight up terrible. I just think just a lot of his decisions over the years just has been it's not good for an organization, right? And it has proven and it's cost this team opportunities to go to the playoffs. And this is what I want to see. Despite the losses that they've taken, the fact that they've got eliminated from the playoffs, Roland, keep having the team play like this. You don't have to worry about it. Just keep having these guys play as best as possible. That's all I wanted to see. I mean, they were up on the Thunderbirds. This is a game they could have won. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, they should have won a couple of missed passes, by Brinker at certain moments. But Barons, good game. I'm going to say that. I'm going to just give you the GGs. I'm going to give you the GGs. Take the L, but GGs. Won't give you a bell. And then for the final game, this is where we're going to play the bell. Because, those Miners smoked the Armadillos. The defense of the Miners is crazy. They're such a great unit. And it didn't matter what quarterback was in there. I feel bad for Chumlee. Yeah, they got him benched, but the next guy came in there and threw 3 interceptions. That's just how good the defense is. The defense is that good. I can see there's been top tier quarterbacks that struggled against the Miners. So they absolutely brought it tenfold to the Armadillos this second go around. I kind of figured this was going to happen. I had the Miners as my favorites to win, but I didn't know they was going to win like this, to be honest. And defense took it home. Derek Oliveros had 3 interceptions in this game. He's the poster boy here in this one. Just an excellent game by the Miners, man. What do you want to say about this? And the downfall of the Armadillos is looking treacherous, man. They had the South in their hands, and they're looking like the Bisons of last year right now.
I mean, I called the Armadillos falling off. I mean, I was in a call with you when I told them they're not going to keep up the way because they weren't winning games in a traditional fashion. They were getting last minute touchdowns or game winning field, but they weren't just outright winning games. Mm-hmm. But this is the game where the Miners just said we were going to win, and they didn't care. We were going to be better than you. We're going to outplay you in every facet. It didn't matter. And I mean, this right here is just basically done showing why he got rid of Chumlee. Chumlee will throw you into games, but he's also going to throw you out of games when you don't want him to. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just dominating win by the Miners. Do want to call out Connor Jameson in his first touchdown, 90 yards.
Yeah, that was a great catch too. He really went on the head of O'Neal. O'Neal's a pretty solid corner, but hey, Jameson showing his worth. These rookies for Dunn showing his worth. He just had his podcast and a lot of stuff he said, very, very factual in terms of his team and the players in which he selected. They panned out excellent for him, and the defense, man, I can't credit the defense enough for just how great these guys really are. And if they can keep this up, that's what's going to keep them in any game. You know, I still gave these guys technically a shot for the division a bit in the beginning of the season. I said if they have any shot of making it and winning the division again, it's because of their defense. But what has really helped them is the development of Miles McCain. He's definitely gotten he's definitely looked way better than the last time he played the Armadillos, right? He didn't look bad in the Armadillos game either because he didn't have any turnovers or anything, but the Armadillos won handily, and the Miners made sure to do the same thing this time around. So, and shout out to the Miners, man. Shout out to Dunn. This might be the third year in a row that they come out with the South in their hands, and they have the South right now in their hands, leading it. So I'm anxious to see what they're going to be able to do from this point on forward. The trajectory of their offense now getting better and better is what's going to make it harder for any team, I think, right now in the South to really compete against them. I think the Armadillos, like you said, are on a downward spiral to the point where I don't know if they'll win another game. I think they're just going to keep just dropping down. I mean, they do have the Black Knights, but, you know, Black Knights even looking tough. But as for the Miners, they're just on the up and up right now. I could definitely see them winning out and also losing in the first round of playoffs, as they usually do.
Like they've done the last 2 years.
Yeah, but yeah, shout out to the Miners, man. Big victory here. And that's going to be it for the game recaps. Now, I do have the top 10 power rankings, and what we could do is I'm going to talk about the schedule and everything, but I guess we can bring up either the playoff implications. I was going to actually save that after the schedule and stuff. So you want to do it then or actually like right now?
I mean, we can wait.
We can wait. All right, cool. So we'll dive into those things. I do want to see what your thoughts are live here on the podcast for, you know, the schedule. I really want to see where your mind's at with those things, man, because, you know, I usually have Bill on here, but good to hear from some other guys live here. So there's the new top 10 power rankings. The Steamers are now number 1 in the RFL. I have the Thunderbirds moving up to number 2, and the Explorers there at 3. Nothing's changed from 4 through 9 with the Celtic Tigers, Diablos, Bulldogs, Riverhogs, Red Dragons, and Monarchs. They're still doing their thing. And then we finally have the Chicago Tigers gracing the top 10 at number 10. That number 10 spot is cursed, ain't it? That's the only only new team that's on here that wasn't on here.
That's what they've been saying.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just as bad as a Madden curse there. Kai Cash gracing the poster for that. I'll be making sure to post that on social media. Looking at these top 10 power rankings, what's your thoughts on them? What would you change? You know, who is probably not on this list that you would consider probably maybe moving up to top 10? What's your thoughts on it?
I think right away I put the Tigers over the Monarchs.
Over the Monarchs?
I think, you know, the Monarchs
Did they play this
are beating
season?
solid Tiger. Yeah, the Monarchs beat them back in like week 3.
Monarchs looking good too, though, man. Yeah.
They are. But the Tigers swept the Explorers and beat me, who I'm currently one of the top tier teams in the NRC. You know, when I look at the Monarchs, and their biggest win was the Crusaders. They beat the Crusaders, the Tigers, the Shamrocks, the Lancers, and Gunners. The Monarchs have the only team with a winning record the Monarchs have beaten is the Tigers.
Well, another thing I will say is this: it's tough because I know it was back in week 3. They still beat them, right? And they're still doing good. You only get to play who you play. But to me, for whatever reason, I still feel like if they were to play again, that the Monarchs are the better team. And that's really what this list is. I feel like if these teams were to play, what is the orders? I feel like the Steamers could beat every team here. I feel like the Thunderbirds, you know, they same deal for exactly my ordering here. How I think it would go. So that's kind of how I feel. I still feel like even with those wins there for the Tigers, you know, I don't got them yet over the Monarchs. But we'll see because they got to make the playoff. They might make the playoffs. You know, we'll have to see. That's all I can really say about that. Is that the only thing that you see that you would change up or some other things?
Well, just to counter that point, you know, that was before they played me in the Explorers twice. You know, it's been 10 weeks since then.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the only other team I would try to fit in there would be the Miners, but I don't know if I would. I don't think I'd have them over any of these 10, so it's hard to fit them in there.
Yeah. Yeah, for Miners it was tough. I do feel like it's just certain teams I feel like it's tough because I'm gonna be honest. It's about 50-50 for me when it comes. If the Miners played the Tigers, I kind of feel like the Miners would probably. Nah, that's hard. That's hard. I
Yes,
guess.
yeah, yeah. Like it's
Yeah.
because it's a coin toss. I can't
Yeah.
say yes or no,
Yeah.
so I can't really argue that they should be in there. But I think that's who, like, it would be like a 10.5
Yeah.
would be the Miners.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, that's tough. But I had to definitely give the Tigers some love this week. I mean, they've earned it. Let's see if they can continue to stay on the chart, though. Can they continue to rise? This is a big week coming up for them. And with that being said, here's the big week we got, man. 13 games in week 15. And we're going to get a look at what Forbes has to say, what he thinks in terms of the spreads on who he believes is going to come out on top of this week's games. I'm going to the spreads right now to see what I had for this week. All right. So the first game off rip for the ARC North, it's the Huskies. It's the Bulls. If the Huskies win this game, like I said, we could talk about a little bit of the playoff. This is where we can talk about those things a little bit more in depth if we want to, just for the matchup sake. So if you want to go ahead, dive into the Huskies, why this game is so important for them and things like that, you could do that. But I got the Huskies winning this one by 3 or more points.
Yeah, I'll take that with the spread. But to go into depth, if the Huskies win this, they'll win the North. They still have 2 auto wins left, so at worst, they'll finish 12-5 with a 4-2 record in the division. Everyone else already has 5 losses in the division, and this will give the Bulls 6. So it doesn't matter if the Cougars and Aviators went out and also finished 12-5. The Huskies will have a better record. So this is why it's really important. Holden Wolf was signed on a big contract to be here 1 year, 40+ million. He needs to get this win to show why he was paid, and he can do it now in week 15. And then his game next week won't matter.
Yeah, that's huge. I know, I want to. Is that 100% Forbes? Because that might mean we get a sighting of Mr. Poole in the Black Knights game.
Yeah, so right now, if the Huskies win, they will be 4-2 in the division. The Aviators already have 4 losses. The Cougars already have 3 losses in the division. And they both already have 5 losses. The best either one of them could finish is 12-5. The Huskies win this, they're guaranteed to be 12-5. The Bulls, if they lose this, they'll have 6 losses, and they'll be 3-2 in the division, so they can't get to 4 like the Huskies.
Okay, so they'll be tied up, but the Huskies are going to win because they have the better division record, right?
Yes, that's the second tiebreaker.
Gotcha. All right, then, man. Well, you have it right there. Big game for the Huskies. Big game for the Bulls, too, because this game doesn't necessarily win them the North, right? Or
no, this game does not win the Bulls the North.
Okay, so what scenario would you say that if they do win this, where they can still not make it as in our ARC North champions?
So if the Bulls win this game and then lose to the Cougars, that has them at 4-2, but they'll be 11-6 because they lost to the Cougars. So if the Cougars win out, they're 12-5 and have a better record. The Aviators went out, they're 12-5 with a better record. So that's how the Cougars win the North. Is the Bulls have to win this game. The Cougars have to beat the Bulls. The Cougars have to win out, and the Aviators have to lose 1 of 3 games.
Okay, so there's a chance. So if the Bulls win this, the Huskies are not going to win the ARC North, right? There's no scenario for that?
Now I gotta look. I mean, there is a scenario, but that means the Bulls lose twice, the Cougars go 2-2, the Aviators go 1-2, and then the Huskies beat the Black Knights.
Yeah, so pretty much this right here, because that's still an easy street for the Bulls, I would have to say, to win the division, and an easy street for the Huskies. They can win it right now. So this is a very big, important game that we're going to get to kick off the week, guys. Definitely don't want to miss that tomorrow. Okay, Friday, we have the Dreadnoughts and the Aviators facing off against each other. I'm going to take the Dreadnoughts here in this one by 3 or more points. What gets me is I still always feel like it's just something missing in terms of depth and talent on this Aviators team. It's kind of the same deal with the Dreadnoughts, but I just feel like their weapons are more likely to succeed against what they have than it is for the Aviators. It's a tough one, definitely for me. It could go either way, but I'm just taking the Dreadnoughts because I just feel like they are more primed to make the plays to get them to win. What's your thoughts on this?
I'm actually going to take the Aviators in this. If Kingston Kenny plays the way we all know he can, the Dreadnoughts don't have the front seven they used to. I'm not saying the Aviators offensive line is, elite or anything, but we know what 2K can do.
Mhm.
So if they can get him going, they can win any game, especially with Marquise Washington back there. And then having those two corners, the King Armstrong and Lynn Mayberry, having both of them, it doesn't matter where KJ lines up on the field. If they can win that matchup, we talked about it earlier. If they can't get Cameron Jones the ball, they struggle. So I think the Aviators have the specific skill set to beat a team like the Dreadnoughts.
All right, moving on to the next game, we have the Lancers and the Wizards. I'm taking the Wizards to win this one. The Lancers, we already know they're on the downfall in terms of they're just playing their young guys at this point. They know there's no playoffs. They're just going to go out there and put their best foot forward. They got the home field advantage, but the Wizards are just a better team. Leo Moon should be able to perform better against this team. We've seen what happens when he faces teams like this. He usually does a pretty good job or a great job and gets the job done, right? But when he faces those tough top tier defensive teams, that's usually where the Wizards at their worst. Lancers this season has been one of the worst defensive teams, so the Wizards should be able to succeed with putting points up on the board. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Wizards by 4 or more points.
Yeah, I also have the Wizards. The Lancers haven't shown anything all year to say that they're any better than the Wizards, and the Wizards need this win to stay competitive for a wild card spot. They're currently on the outside looking in. Another loss would just set them back further. This is Leo Moon's second year. He's been developing, and I just hope they get this win.
All right, game number 2 for the 1 p.m. slot. We have the Bisons and the Armadillos, and the Bisons defeated the Armadillos last time that they played. The Armadillos defeated the Bisons last time that they played. It was 27-12, I believe the score was. And I think the Bisons are going to be able to get it done this time around here at home. I might be having these flipped. Did the Bisons beat? I might have them flipped.
I think the
Bisons won the last
Bisons.
time, right?
Yeah, the Bisons beat the Armadillos.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I knew it was. Yeah, the Bisons are the ones that beat them. I think they're going to beat them again. I think they're going to beat them again because the Armadillos are now down on this downward spiral, like I talked about. Chumlee, he's still going to be the quarterback for these guys. It's been a terrible, terrible amount of interceptions thrown these last 3 RFL games. But I'm going to take the Bisons because I feel like they're getting better, and with the way that the Armadillos are playing, they're just going to find a way to win, and I got them by a field goal or more.
Yeah, I have the Bisons over the Armadillos. If Chumlee plays anything like he did last week, it doesn't matter who they play, the opposing team is going to win.
Yeah, and they got a pretty good secondary there too, so might be some more picks thrown for Mr. Lee. Final 1 p.m. game, we have the Shamrocks and the Diablos, and this is the biggest spread of the week. I got you guys, Forbes, for this game. Of course, you're going to pick yourself, but the reason why I got you is because, we just saw what the Gunners did to the Shamrocks, right? And it's hard to judge what a team's going to do after they play a certain team, but you kind of get identity when it's something that's occurring throughout the season, who they can really match up against, and the likelihood of them winning. I don't see the Shamrocks being able to compete with the Diablos and how you guys have been playing. I got you guys winning by 10 or more points. If the Gunners and other teams that's been able to dominate these teams, this team the way they have been able to do that, I believe that you guys can be able to get the job done too. So spread is 10 points for you guys. Of course, this is your own, but do you think you're going to be able to get the win? It's hard to even talk about this. We know the outcome.
I think you just got the spread too low. I'm surprised it's not at least 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
should be a higher. Now I will say this just as a disclaimer. You guys still won't know. But we know what the outcome of this is because this is one of the games in which we were able to stream before we got this. But I still go with whatever prediction I say on the podcast. So you're not going to know. Am I right? Am I wrong? We'll find out.
I'm not picking against my team.
Yeah, and he's not picking against his team. So the Diablos, though, got him by 10 or more points. Bulldogs and the Sentinels. The Sentinels swept the Bulldogs last year, and the Bulldogs got their vengeance this year with the first meeting. Sentinels definitely not making the playoffs. They were first team eliminated this season in the RFL. So I'm definitely going with the Bulldogs in this one because Sentinels just have not been looking good despite the home field advantage. I got the Bulldogs by 6 or more.
I also had the Bulldogs by 6 and more. And to go along with this game, if the Sentinels win, the Celtic Tigers will win the East.
That's if you're a CT fan, hey, you're rooting on for flaming those guys, Coach Tour. But yeah, 6 or more points there. Miners and the Riverhogs. This is going to be a great matchup. It was almost tough because I was about to knock out the Dreadnoughts and Aviators game, primetime game for them, because this was the week where we were flexing games. But that Dreadnoughts and Aviators one is pretty important too, because Aviators trying to stay within the division, trying to still make the playoffs or whatever and things like that. So it's important. This is a great primetime, premier game to watch. I think most viewers are going to be here. Miners and the Riverhogs saw Coach Dunn even coming at Coach Q in the chat during his podcast, talk about, hey, ain't gonna be no laughing when this game goes on. We're gonna see who's victorious, but I'm rocking with Q in this one, Forbes. I got the Riverhogs by 4 or more points. It's gonna be tough though, because this Miners defense can be something serious, man. And I think it's gonna be a tough battling game all the way to the end where it's close.
This is the tough one. I'm about to pick here on the spot. I'll go with the Miners. When I look at their schedule, they've beaten all the teams they should, and they've lost to all the teams they should. They've yet to, they beat the Cougars, but the Cougars have been struggling. But this is a game where the Miners can really show me that they're a true playoff team. They're a true threat to do something this year. So I'm gonna go with Dunn and the Miners to I guess get an upset over the Riverhogs.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big game right there. All right, we have the Desperados and the Elks. This is a very important game for the Elks. Got them as the favorites to win this by 5 or more points with the home field advantage. Nothing really too much for me to say here. I just feel like the Elks are a more, dominant team, and the Desperados showing their true colors more so this season. They still have shocked some teams this season. So I mean, they can make it competitive, but I'm rolling with Latavian Morrell and the Elks here. Once again,
like
points.
you just said. Yeah, so I am going to take the Elks here. Like you said, the Desperados have just come back to earth. They've been on paper the worst team for the last 3 years, But a little playoff stipulation to go with this leading up to our Saturday night primetime game is if the Desperados win, and then the Snowhawks win, the Snowhawks will win the West this week.
Oh, snap. So, hey, Mitch, you're the biggest Desperados fan this week. That's huge. That is huge. All right, moving on. We got 6 p.m. games this week, 2 of them. And the first one that we're going to go over is the Gunners and the Monarchs. Last time these guys played, it was a tough, competitive game. Monarchs won 23-15, and that was in Houston. Houston looking to get their lick back, and they had a nice little tune-up game against the Shamrock coming into this one 45-13, which we just covered. But I got the Monarchs. I got the Monarchs by 3 or more points. I just feel like their offense is still going to be able to make more plays against their defense, and they are more well-rounded team. When I look at the Gunners, they're still lacking on defense. They can get those stops, but I feel like they can give up a lot more points than the defense of the Miners. And Jabri Jackson and the guys are going to have an outstanding game once again like they had last week, which I think is going to be tougher to do against the Monarchs. So I got the Monarchs by a field goal or more. What's your thoughts?
I'll take the Monarchs by that spread. I don't usually want to say the Monarchs will sweep the Gunners, especially when they have Jabri. But, with the way both teams have been going, their trajectory, I'll stick with the Monarchs.
All right, then we get to our last game. This is for playoff eliminations because Black Knights, they lose this game. That's 6 losses, and most likely, they still got some tough games to come, man. And the chances of them winning, they're not going to be the favorites of that one. They got the home field advantage against the Cougars, who just came off of snapping their 5-game losing streak in overtime, going back to overtime after the week before that, and winning it 34-28, as we talked about against the Bulls. I'm going to go with the Cougars by 4 or more points. I think that was the win they needed to kind of snap themselves back into shape. And against the Black Knights, even though, they can be a tough team, I think that the Cougars going to find a way to, get over top of these guys at the end of the day on the road. And
I'm going to take the Cougars.
Did I say the spread already? Yeah, 4 points.
It don't matter. I'm taking the Cougars. I think the downfall of this game is the Cougars have a much better defense than the Aviators did. And like until McCall can stop turning the ball over, it's gonna be hard to pick them in any game.
All right, and we move on to the game that's very important. If the Desperados somehow find a way to win the Condors and the Snowhawks. The Condors, they beat the Snowhawks already earlier this season. They did it last year, but hey, it was a split between these guys last year as well. So this is going to be an interesting game to watch for sure. The Snowhawks are looking much better. They have the home field advantage, and I'm going to rock out with Mitchie, man. I think he's going to get the win and split the series between these two on this Saturday night. And so I got them by a field goal. What's your thoughts?
I'm also rocking out with the Snowhawks on this. I think Michigan can get it done. Hopefully, the Elks will lose a game over the next 4 weeks, and he doesn't have to move from Portland.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes, man. I think it's definitely obtainable for him, even if the Elks win. He's looking good right now. He's got to keep this momentum going. Thunderbirds and Tigers, huge game Sunday night. I gotta go with the Birds here because they definitely have been able to get their vengeance since that upsetting loss that knocked them out their first ever playoff miss back in season 6. The Thunderbirds have been dominating the Tigers. They dominated them earlier this season. And the Tigers, man, they just came off a sweep over the Explorers, who the Thunderbirds did lose to earlier this season out of those 2 losses that they had. And so they have the home field advantage. So this is going to be in Chicago again. They just defended it against the Explorers. Can they defend it against the Thunderbirds? My opinion, I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is that this Thunderbirds team is going to be 100% healthy. So they got 100% healthy at the right time. And I feel like these guys are just the kryptonite to this team to really get going on the offense side of the ball. You already talked about it, how their offense really doesn't get moving. And then their defense can be good, is definitely solid, keeps them in games. But if we're talking about a defensive battle, right, between teams, who's going to win? Thunderbirds are going to give their offense more chance to get on the field more often than the Tigers defense will. And so 9 times out of 10, if this is a defensive battle, Thunderbirds are going to win that. And so I'm going with the T-Birds in that matchup.
Yeah, I'm going with the Thunderbirds, and they're going to win the North with this win.
Yeah, that's a big. So it's guaranteed that they win it from your
Yeah,
calculations?
if the Thunderbirds win this game, they'll win the North.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, because they get an auto win next week, and then they have to play the Lancers and Monarchs, I believe.
Yeah, so very much if the Thunderbirds win this, they'll be 5-1 in the division. The worst they can be is 13-4. The best, the Tigers could be as 13-4, but the Thunderbirds would have a better divisional record.
Gotcha. Okay, so what about the Explorers? They can be 13-4 at best too.
Well, the Explorers would have to lose to the Steamers.
Okay. So they're
or just lose one more game.
Okay. Which is tough because if the Explorers,
So not guarantee, but
yeah, I was about to say, I was like, they even get it over the Explorers. But yeah, Steamers and the Explorers. This is the last game of the week on a Monday. And hey, it's been tough for the Explorers. Got swept by the Tigers. Of course, took a loss to the Thunderbirds, but at least revenged that. So, I mean, that's not a shock. But they got the home field advantage, man. But the way the Steamers is rocking, I said I wouldn't choose the Explorers. The Steamers over the Explorers until they played, right? But after that sweep, after those losses, the way that the Steamers are playing, I'm actually going to go with the Steamers in this one. I'm going with the Steamers by 3 or more points.
I'm biased and going with the Explorers because I want to get the 1 seed.
All right, yeah. So yeah, I just it's going to be a great game. This is definitely game of the week. You do not want to miss that. But you know that's some tough momentum for the Explorers, right? Coming in, it's losing to the Tigers in that fashion. I mean, of course they could have won it. It's a close game, but the Steamers on a whole nother level this year, and so I'm very excited to see how that game's going to go. But that is it for the schedule, guys, and we'll go ahead now dive into the playoff schedule and how it will look if it was to start today. And I'm already in the ARC, and so I'm going to have to click this on and off. So we're in the ARC. Don't mind the right side, guys. For anybody who's been paying attention to the RFL, you should know that the files are split up by conference in 2 separate files. So we'll look over here to the left. ARC side, if it was to start today, the number 1 seed with a bye week would be the Celtic Tigers. Then you got the Riverhogs at 2, the Miners at 3, Huskies 4, Red Dragons 5, Bulldogs 6, and Dreadnoughts at 7. So these would be the teams that are in. So these are some great teams. I would love to see the playoffs start off with these guys honestly in it with the way that they've been playing. Is there anybody you see on this list right now, Forbes, that you don't feel will be there by the end of the season?
The ARC is hard, man.
Yeah, it is.
When you look at this, a lot of people who aren't in the file and don't look at the Neon might not know this, but so far the only 2 teams eliminated is the Sentinels and Pioneers, who both already have 8 losses. Well, if you look at the 6 and 5 seed, they're both 10-3. The 7 seed is 9-4. Well, the 8 seed through 14 are all 8-5.
Yeah.
So there's 2 games separating the 5 seed from the 14 seed. So I honestly cannot tell you if I don't know if any team's going to jump in or out. Looking at these teams, the only one I could see falling out would be one of the 2 teams from the South, the Miners or the Dreadnoughts, falling out for maybe a Bulls, a Voyagers even, or a Cougars or something. But it's really hard right now in the ARC to tell.
Yeah, I mean this ARC playoff would be fire. I mean, look at that first round. What it would be, man. The Riverhogs, Dreadnoughts fire game. Miners and Bulldog, that's tough for the Miners there, but did those guys play? Did the Miners and the Bulldogs play earlier this season?
No, they're in different divisions. So
no, I'm talking. Well, they may be in different divisions, but I mean, like, did they play each other this season?
the Miners and Bulldogs.
Yeah. I don't know why I feel like they did. Yes, we did. Yeah, you said yes, we did.
Yeah, they did. They lost.
Okay, and the Bulldogs won. Okay. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. They got some history on there. Then the Huskies and the Red Dragons is definitely going to be fire because, the Huskies, they make it in. They're trying to see if they have that firepower from the moves they made in the offseason to really be able to make a run in the playoffs. And the Red Dragons, the way they're playing, man, these games will be fire. So let's just play this game. If it was to start today, we're just only going to do the first round, who would advance to the divisional round, just so we could talk about, who the Celtic Tigers would play and who we think would win that. So looking at the first game, Riverhogs, Riverhogs, Dreadnoughts. Who you got advancing?
The Riverhogs.
Riverhogs. Okay, so the number 2 seed will be right under there. Will be right under in that second group of boxes at the top. Then we have the next game, Miners and Bulldogs.
I have the Bulldogs.
I'd have to agree with you there as well. So we both agree on those. So that means the Bulldogs, the 6th seed, will be in more than likely. Yeah, because they lost there. That means the Celtic Tigers will be playing the Bulldogs in the next round. And then to see who the Riverhogs would play, it would be between the Huskies and Red Dragons. Who are you going to take in this one?
I'm going to take the Red Dragons.
Yeah, it's tough, but I'm going to have to agree as well. I feel like the defense is going to be the neutralizer for, what the Huskies can do. If the Huskies on their day, then yeah. If they could get Anthony Savoy rattled, then yeah. But the way that the Red Dragons are looking now, I'd have to probably go with them if this playoff matchup was to happen. And so, yeah, moving on to the next round, Bulldogs, Celtic Tigers. These guys meet each other the last game of the regular season as well. Celtic Tigers got the best of them last time they played 30-16. Who you got advancing?
That's hard. They're both really good teams. Like I said, Rob Cosby, Bill Jr. I'm gonna have to go with the Bulldogs, and defense wins championships.
All right, so the Bulldogs, you got them advancing. I'm gonna have to be the OG. I have to go with the Celtic Tigers, man. I think the Celtic Tigers beat them. I'll tell you what, though. If they sweep the Bulldogs, I'm taking the Bulldogs. Yeah, that's just how I'm going. If the Celtic Tigers sweep the Bulldogs in the regular season, they're not beating them if they meet again in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. I don't see it.
All right, Reed knows what to do now.
Yeah, lose on purpose, my guy. But yeah, the next matchup we said just to see who
Riverhogs, Red Dragons.
Yeah, Riverhogs, Red Dragons. That's tough. but I'm gonna take the Red
I think
Dragons.
that, yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna take the Red Dragons, and I think the Red Dragons beat them earlier. It's none of those situations where they still have to play again. Oh no, the Riverhawks won last time.
Yeah, Riverhawks won.
I'm still taking the Red Dragons.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Red Dragons in that one. Sorry, Q. But so that would be Red Dragons for us both going to the ARC Championship. It would be Celtic Tigers and Red Dragons for me though, and then it would be Bulldogs and Red Dragons for you. Let's just go all the way. Why not? So if you had you had
Bulldogs,
the
Red
Bulldogs and
Dragons.
the Red Dragons going at it. Who you got representing the ARC in the championship?
I'm gonna have to say the Red Dragons.
Man. Um, okay, yeah, I don't have the Bulldogs, but me honestly, I believe I think the Celtic Tigers would beat the Red Dragons.
Biased.
I'm not biased. I just feel like they'd win. I just feel like they'd win, man. Because look at this. The type of offense that they have, yeah, you could say the same thing with kind of the Huskies, but it's something about the Celtic Tigers defense. I think guys kind of sleep on the linebacker core that they have and those corners. I think if there's any team that's going to give the Red Dragons fits in terms of turning the football over and Anthony Savoy not playing the way he's supposed to, it's the Celtic Tigers. Now, in the Bulldog situation where I was talking about if they played each other, I would take the Red Dragons over the Bulldogs because there's more of a likelihood I'm seeing Timmy Merritt having mistakes than I would see with the offense that the Celtic Tigers have doing it.
Well, he also doesn't have superstars, so he can't win a
So that
championship.
would be, but neither does Justin Jones. So
Yeah, that's why you're wrong. The quarterback has to have, well, neither does Anthony Savoy. So
yeah, so it's
you
all
know what?
nobody has.
Neither does Owen, Jack, or Miles McCain, or the only quarterback in this picture that has an ability is the Huskies.
That's crazy. So there you go, Reed. Point proven wrong. But anyway, yeah, I would take the Celtic Tigers to represent the ARC. You said the Red Dragons?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go to the NRC side and see what things would be. Let me go ahead and put up the schedule here just to block this. I gotta go pull that up. If you want to say anything to the community or anything, you can talk. But there you go.
I don't even know why somebody's pulling this up when I'm just going to win the bracket. So there's just no reason to do this. It's going to be Diablos, Red Dragons. I'm winning the Relo Bowl. It just is what it is. It's set in stone. I don't know what to tell you
Wolf
guys.
isn't good, remember? That was funny to me because I couldn't believe that they lost to them as well, the way they did with Wolf having an actual good game. Because I actually thought the Bulldogs were going to beat them. All right, so here we go. Playoff picture for the NRC. This is what it currently looks like. At number 1 seed, we have the Steamers. Number 2, the Thunderbirds. 3, Desperados. I'll never disrespect that team or you like that again, my guy. But 3, the Diablos. 4, the Elks. 5 is the Tigers. 6, the Explorers. And 7, the Monarchs. So let's go ahead and run this scenario through. I think this is a unanimous decision. Thunderbirds, Monarchs. I'm taking the Thunderbirds in that. You gonna take them? You agreeing or?
Yeah, I'm taking the
All right,
Thunderbirds.
cool.
That's not a question.
All right, yeah. So then this is where it gets dicey because this is your team. All right. So the Explorers and the Diablos, man. That's
For
a
me,
good matchup though for Bill. So if this
Yeah.
was to happen, he better look out. But I am gonna rock with Bill. I do think he gets it done on the road. Of course, you would take your team, but realistically,
I mean, I can see why you say that. You know, I can see why you would think that, but let me tell you, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead, tell me.
it just depends if he's got DJ figured out by then or not.
Yeah.
You know, if DJ
Definitely.
is still sporadic, I do have the secondary to make those plays and the D line to get pressure. So it all depends on whether DJ is playing the way we know he can by then or not.
That's
But yeah, I'm taking my team.
Yeah, that's what makes them tough. So I mean, even if I was the Tigers, that's why you guys gotta stay ahead. Like, because if y'all move to the 6th seed, then y'all gotta play the Diablos, you know. So that's gonna be tough. And then the last game, we have the Elks and the Tigers, which is a good game. I believe the Tigers beat the Elks earlier this season. Honestly, this could go either way. I'm not gonna lie. Elks, do not count out the Elks for nothing. And also, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I'm confident in what I could do for this team to be able to knock the Tigers out. So I'm gonna say I'm actually take the Elks to actually win that game. I know the Tigers dude's gonna be fired up for me saying that, but I think that the Elk can beat the Tigers, man, with the home field advantage. If it was flipped, I'd take you guys, but honestly, I'm gonna roll with the Elks, man.
I'm gonna take the Tigers.
All right, so there's our mix-up. So we got a few things different from the two games. So Thunderbirds will be advancing, so they'll be at that third box, the second box that isn't highlighted with teams.
You would have Thunderbirds, Elk. No, you have Steamers, Elks.
No, I would have the
Yeah, you would have Steamers, Elks, Thunderbirds.
No, it'd be
no,
Steamers,
you're right.
Explorers.
You had the Explorers win.
Yeah,
you had the Explorers winning.
And then the Thunderbirds. I
forgot you say things wrong sometimes.
Yeah. So the Thunderbirds, I got them definitely beating the Elks and going to the NRC Championship. And then it's a rematch between the Explorers and Steamers again. With that, man, that's tough. But I gotta choose one. If I had to choose, I'd probably choose the Steamers. I just think that the likelihood, win or lose in their first matchup, I think the Steamers are going to win the second. So I got the Steamers and the Thunderbirds in the NRC Championship. Who you got?
Let's see. So I would have the Steamers versus the Tigers, and then me versus the Thunderbirds. I have the Steamers beating the Tigers. I'm gonna have me beat the Thunderbirds.
All right. So we got the Diablos and you said Steamers, right?
And you have Steamers, Thunderbirds. I have me and the Steamers.
And this would be great.
And I'm winning that one too.
You got all right. Ford's definitely going all the way with his guys then.
I'm going all the way.
Yeah. So he's going all the way.
Diablos all the way this time.
Diablos in his prediction. And my prediction with the Steamers and Thunderbirds, they played earlier. The Steamers were able to be victorious, but that was the most hurt that the Thunderbirds were. If the Thunderbirds have no injuries heading up to this point, I'm taking the Thunderbirds. I think that's the best team that has the best chance of beating the Steamers. And I would have a Celtic Tigers, Thunderbirds, Relo Bowl, and Forbes will have a Diablos and Red Dragons. Repeat. Relo Bowl. Rematch.
Yep.
That's fire.
So you didn't know. I thought ahead. I set that up.
Yeah. So he set up some history. All right, so let's think. I think the Thunderbirds would beat the Celtic Tigers in a Relo Bowl. That Relo Bowl would be fire.
I agree with that.
If you had to play against the
Red Dragons, I'd win.
Red Dragons,
easy.
You
50-0.
gonna get the revenge from back in season 2, huh?
Yeah, easy dubs.
Gonna get that get back. All right, so
yes, sir.
So Forbes for Relo Bowl this year, guys. You heard it first, man. I like the confidence, man. Love the confidence. But yeah, with that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to fun facts with Pat, and then we could just open things up for free talk, guys. So let me go ahead and close this. Fun facts with Pat. Question number 1. Let me open this up, actually. Who was the first quarterback taken in the S8 RFL draft? Hint, it isn't Miles McCain.
So what's with this question, Pat? I need harder things. This is free reloads. Looks like Polk. Or no, Cards. Whoever Cards is.
Cards got it first. Are you in the Discord, my guy? Who is Cards? If you're not in the Discord, that's impressive, man. Shout out to you. This must be a devoted just community member who watches.
He just said nah, so we go to. Do we give that to Polk?
We'll give that to Polk. But and shout out to Cards. Let's get hashtag Cards in the chat, man. Shout out to you, my guy. Appreciate that. Paying attention, man. Keeping up with the RFL, and he is 100% correct though. It is Calvin Poole, USC quarterback. He was taken by the Huskies in the first round with the 7th pick. All right. Question number 2. The last time the Miners played the Riverhogs, who had 2 touchdowns and 96 receiving yards for the winning team?
Me. We had Buck, Albridge, Sylvester Leach.
Ooh.
ESJ said Miners wide receiver.
10, 9, 8,
Shropshire.
7, 6, 5, 4,
Anthony
3,
Fry,
2,
Labo Frederick,
1.
Roseman.
Yeah, there you go. Got one. And that is Connor Jameson. Got it. Angel Roseman, wide receiver for the Riverhawks, had those statistics in their win back in season 4. So these guys haven't played in 4 years. 33-20 was the score. Riverhawks got the best of them. We'll see if things change this time around. All right, question number 3. The Cougars won a thriller in OT against the Bulls on Saturday. Before that, who was the last team Chicago beat in an overtime game?
Huskies, Pioneers, Aviators. CT, Sentinels.
You got it right. It's Connor Jameson again. Correct answer is Dublin Celtic Tigers, which was back in the playoffs wild card round. They won 16-13. So Jameson's got a stack. Let's get hashtag JMO in the chat. And we actually got an extra question, guys, here from Pat. So question number 4. Whose 98-yard touchdown run in week 4 is the longest run so far in season 8? Not going to get too much time for this because this can be found pretty easily.
John Lusk, Cam Perkins, Matt Wheaton, Kingston Kenny, DJ Scott, 2K, Worsley, Barry, Shivers.
Actually, you get a decent time. I read this question wrong. So y'all still got a little bit more time I'm going to give you.
David
Said not that
Jones.
easy. Yeah. I thought about it, Pat, and I was like, hold up. That's not that easy. So I'm giving y'all some more time.
Manuel, Tevion Hall, Jay Morris,
It's coming up, though.
Knight,
10,
Steele,
9,
Tomlinson,
8,
Jones,
6,
Cornell Mickens,
5,
Anthony
4,
Savoy,
3, 2,
Donovan
1.
Rhodes, Jacob McDonald,
Wow.
Bryson.
And that is it. 250 going to Pat. And there goes done with the close. Yes, so nobody got it right before that. The correct answer is Donovan Rhodes, London Monarchs running back.
Someone said Rhodes.
They did?
Yeah, Jameson said it.
Ain't no way. He did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that dude got 1,500. Sorry, Pat, we're gonna have to confiscate those 250 back. But
Can't upgrade anything anyway.
Oh man. Yeah, so yeah, he done stacked up for real. 1,500 reloads for J-Mo. Let's get hashtag J-Mo again in the chat. This guy balling, man. Dude came in with the step-by-step tutorial. Mike O'Neal on top of the head just this past week for a touchdown. 1,500 reloads this week. Balling. But that is it. And we're going to open things up for open question, guys. So I'm going to put up this top 10 just in case if anybody haven't seen that. And yeah, if you guys got any question to go ahead and ask. Got my man Forbes on here. He can help out with the questions as well. Let's see what you guys got to say. You know, ask him questions if you want. He said, darn impressive. Yeah, that's impressive, man.
I will say before I forget, 2 teams can be eliminated this week in the Shamrocks or not the Shamrocks. Shamrocks already eliminated. The Desperados and Gunners can be eliminated this week.
All right.
With losses.
They're holding on. I wanted to ask you because even if the Gunners somehow were able to win out, what is their chances still of making it since they lost to the Desperados and the Tigers? And we know that the Tigers, say for instance, they don't win their division, they're still, going to be one of those wild card teams.
Well, it's hard for the Gunners. So if they win out, you also need the Shamrocks to lose another game.
Which I think
you need the Desperados to lose one of their 3 games. You need the Explorers to lose 3 of their next 4 games.
Oh, no, that's impossible.
So there's and then you go to the West and you have all three teams or all four teams over there only have 5 losses when the Gunners only have 6. So you need at least 2 of those teams to lose another game. And then even if it's the Elks who lose a game, the Elks and Snowhawks will still be over them. So they're just like there's like a chance.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, there's a
They're just
chance,
not mathematically eliminated. There's like one way they get in.
yeah, fighting for their lives, man. Fighting for their lives. All right, let's see. As it says, I'm curious of the comparison between the Chicago Tigers and Celtic Tigers. What
I feel
makes
like
one
that's more.
favorites every week and the other underdogs every week? Just to be honest, this is what I'm gonna say to that, because I know
I feel
you're
like that's more
excited,
historic
but
more than anything.
let's be honest here, man. Great wins, right? Nobody's taking nothing away from you, but we're being realistic. The odds of you guys beating the Explorers with a sweep is, you guys made the smallest percentage of a margin of doing that, right? And you barely did that by the point, right? And I don't think you guys do that again. Celtic Tigers, for one, historically have been beating teams. You guys haven't even made a playoff one time in franchise history. You're getting some solid wins. Don't get me wrong. Don't think we're discrediting y'all, but we know at the end of the day, the better teams, when it matters most, are going to show out in the biggest stage. I don't have you guys as the favorites to beat the Thunderbirds because they did y'all dirty last time you guys played. Yes, you beat the Explorers, but again, I just feel like y'all were just the better team in that moment than the Explorers. I wouldn't put you guys on a pedestal of a level of where the Celtic Tigers historically are, the Thunderbirds historically are, and even though you swept the Explorers, do I see you guys consistently beating them year in and year out? No. And that's me being real. And I think anybody can really agree to that. I mean, that these are realistic takes in terms of what your team's been able to do, who you're facing. Nobody's expecting you to beat the Explorers. Nobody's expecting you to beat the Thunderbirds, which you haven't done. Nobody's expecting you to be a good, decent amount of teams that you guys have. But when it comes to playoff time, that's the real deal, man. That is the real deal. And that's even another reason why I even took the Elks, because you could take it as a shot, but I feel like I know what to do against your team enough to have the Elks defeat you. That's my take. Anybody else can think otherwise, but at the end of the day, is that outlandish? I don't think it is, because the Elks are kind of like you guys this year. Nobody expected them to be good. They be good teams. I just think they can defeat you guys, and so that's why I wouldn't have you as a favorite in that matchup. That's just me personally, because I feel like, I could get the job done. I'm not saying you can't beat them, but history shows that this team, even with what you have, isn't there yet, so it's not a favorite.
I mean, even this year, Stein, if you guys played the Explorers again this week, I'm probably still going to pick the Explorers to win.
Yeah, especially in the three-peat, bro. Like, I definitely don't see you guys going 3. Now, if you go 3, that's crazy, but I would still feel the same way even if you do it, because it's 1 year compared to 8 in which this franchise has played. I just don't feel you got to do a lot to get on that level, man. It is what it is. It's not going to be done in 2 years. That's just going to be done in 1 season. It's just not. And last year, you guys didn't look anything like this, So, great season you're having now. But now it's time to see if you can really actually keep up with consistency and make this team a top team. It's like building the Pioneers up. You know what I mean? It ain't going to be done in 1 season. It's not going to be done in 2 seasons. You're going to have to show us that you can consistently do this. You say you talk about year to year. And I'm still talking about this season. There's still many teams that I still feel like that can beat you. Look, I'm not necessarily saying it's a fluke and I'll never use the word fluke. I'm just saying that particular game, you guys, well, I guess like in the terms you can say definition wise, I guess you could call that a fluke, but I don't see you guys beating a team like the Explorers like that. I just don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got it done, but that's real football. That happens sometimes. Slim odds, you got it done, but I'm not going to change my mind and put you in this level this year just because you've done that. I mean, you still got the playoffs to go. This is regular season we talk about. Anybody who's been watching RFL football, when the playoffs hit, It's a whole different breed. Whole different breed. The teams that usually ball, and you're getting knocked out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can make a run with this Tigers team this year, you already made some noise, but you're definitely going to make some noise if you could go deep or even make the NRC Conference Championship this year. You could do that with the Tigers. That's crazy. You definitely going to get more rep for that. But do I see it happening? No. You got to prove it, man. I'm not going to give that to you. You're not the favorite heading in the majority of these games, even though you've won the games. You know? Think about it. If you weren't the favorite to beat the Explorers the first time, you got it done. Oh, wow, they beat the Explorers. But do you think anybody would choose you guys to do that twice? Be realistic. Most people will say no. You did it, though. But now they're still going to choose the Explorers because, like, this ain't going to happen the third time. It's just how it goes. You see any other questions in there?
No, I don't see anything yet.
I see, guys. Yeah. Just talking on the topic. Guys, got any other questions? Feel free to ask. Says scroll up. What did you ask a question?
No, it doesn't tell us. He wants to know what city the Relo Bowl is going to be in.
Oh yeah, we
do
don't
the
know.
Relo Bowl
I
in a
messed up
separate
last
file,
year
so.
on that because I thought the same year would do the same stadium, and then that's where I messed up in last year's Relo Bowl, and I had the SoFi Stadium instead of the where the Vikings play, and I was like, oh man,
okay.
I messed that up. But you literally got to wait until you get to the championship to see what it says in order to, make stuff off of that. So who's been the breakout player to y'all so far? Forbes, I'm gonna let you go ahead. What do you think on this?
My breakout player, I gotta think of.
And is this across
My
the entire
bias.
league for rookies and vets, or?
Because if it's everyone, my bias is going to say Piku because he went from just being a high overall guy who would get 800 yards to currently being like number 2 in the league in yards, number 1 in touchdowns. Like my bias is going to say Piku McCullough.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, it's bias, like, of course, because you're going with your team, but I mean, nobody can actually argue and say, oh, he's just saying that just because it's his player. He's actually doing the work. Breakout player.
I can also see I also kind of want to say Kai Cash, but it's only his second year.
Yeah, he's got a great touchdown to interception ratio. It's tough, man.
I mean,
I'm trying
everyone
to think
doing
around the
good
league. It's tough to really find.
Yeah, someone who's just outperforming what we thought they would do.
Because you can't even say the guys that are already good because they do that. So it's got to be somebody who really didn't do nothing and just turned up.
That's why I ended up picking. I mean, Carter Delahart currently has 21 sacks, which is 4 more than the next leading person.
Yeah, but he's always been a dog too.
Yeah, but do we think he would dominate it? Like he's dominating past everybody. It's not just.
I mean, I can
him
see how you
being
could put
a
him in
dog.
there, but he has been one of the most. He hasn't been talked about a lot, I would have to say, but he has been actually one of the top linebackers for years in the RFL, like way back.
Okay.
I tell you what, this gonna get the miners mad. Chumley, it's like nah. Now I have to go with what Stein said. Reese Goodall is nice. His statistics isn't like he got some great statistics. Honestly, those touchdowns are definitely a big wow factor. You compare him to other guys, you'd probably be like, well, he's not even really in these categories like that. But if you're watching him, Reese Goodall probably is the most improved player I've seen on the field that's like out of position and everything and making plays. I definitely would have to say him.
I can't say Bobby Boucher, Pat, because he like led the league in tackles in the ARC last year or something.
Yeah, Bobby B. Snapping.
Can't say Amir Williams because he just didn't get the bulk of the carries last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Amir
splitting
could
carries,
be
huh?
I could see how you can throw him in that conversation. Justin Jones, he's definitely improved, but what I put him at, like guys already knew he was kind of good. Um,
Well, that's what I feel like with Amir. I can't say he broke out when the only thing that changed is now he's the only back.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying there. It's hard. It's a lot of good guys balling this year that didn't play exactly on that level, but are now.
Yeah, I think it is Reese Goodall.
Yeah, Reese is the one who's going really like, cause it's just like, yo, who's this new guy that just came out here doing all this? That's kind of what it is like when you see him, cause yeah, he's just a beast at that safety position now. Breakout is supposed to be a guy that has never been great and now is. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that was never been great. There's guys who've been
Yeah.
good, but they just excelled past even that. Like the guys we just mentioned, like you're talking about Justin Jones and stuff like that. Like, are we shocked Justin Jones is doing what he's doing? No. I mean, it's a lot of guys we could say a ton of guys have had a breakout year, but who's actually had the most impressive breakout year where it's just like, wow, this dude did this? I can't say that about Justin Jones. I can't say that about other guys. And Dunn bringing up Torres, I heard what you said, and his stats look good. Torres definitely is improving, but once again, he's one of those players. Statistically, you look at him, yeah, those statistics, the statistical ratio looks good, but are you watching the actual games? He's getting better, but there's still a lot of games lost from him at times. So don't just look at his touchdown to interception ratio and the last time he threw a pick. Like if you actually watch the games of Torres, even though last week, he's done good. He's managing, he's maintaining. But when I put him up there as like he's definitely improved like that. No, I mean most of the games are still won from somebody else. So he's improving, but he's not no breakout guy to me. Like honestly, last year, in my opinion, last year's performance is still better than now. Based off of how he had them. I just want to see how he finishes. If anything, if he finishes well, I think it's about even. I don't see too much of an improvement in terms of comparing those seasons. So how can you already be great and then break out? Well, yeah, there's a lot of great players within this league. Like for instance, like who's another guy? Yeah, you talk about Justin Jones. Justin Jones, he's not a top tier quarterback in this league. Like I'm talking about like elite guy. He's had you could say a quote unquote breakout season. He threw for over 3,000 yards. He took his team to the playoff last year. But what he's doing now, he's in front of the league. He's at the top of the league. But would I still say he's one of the most improved guys as a breakout year? No, because that's kind of still, he did that a little bit last year. He did better, but did he do that much better? No. So I wouldn't say he's the most breakout guy just because he's got the stats. You would have to actually, like a guy who really did not do that much. He was average at best and then balled out and he's at top. That's a breakout guy to me. That's somebody you mentioned. We're not taking away from the guys that are good, that are still keeping that level or a little bit better. It's just that it's more impressive to see a guy who didn't have anything that nobody was expecting playing that much better, and you're just like, wow, that's the breakout guy.
Yeah. And to me, it's still just Reese Goodall. I can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, like definitely. I don't see anybody who's at the bottom. Like I said, you can of course bring up rookies, but it's only their first season. You don't know what they're going to do really the following year. So I can't really even talk about them.
Most disappointing is Trey Mason.
If he was at an illegal position, he wouldn't have been there. He met all the requirements done. You said most disappointing is Trey Mason. Oh, that's for
or
you?
Geno Gannon.
Yeah, I would have to say probably Geno Gannon because it has been pretty disappointing how his play has been just because of the hype around the guy. I mean, he's up here, and yeah, it's been pretty bad for him.
Listen, McCall, you don't want me to say the breakout guy for year 2 players because the easy answer is Kai Cash.
Yeah, I would definitely go that. Yeah.
And there's not really anyone else who's who else has made a significant jump in terms of just year 2 players.
And it's hard for me because I'm more of an offensive minded guy. I do see defensive stuff, but it's hard for me to just recall defensive players like that because I definitely pay more attention to offensive players than I do defensive guys.
And again, Hodge, I refuse to put him here when the only thing that changed is that he went from getting 10 carries a game to 20.
Yeah, that's understandable too. Yeah. Now Winkleman
Winkleman is a good breakout.
yeah, that's a great one. You would like. I know the. I'm glad nobody said this. Jakari Torres, bro, he touchdown. Here goes done.
Yeah, man, he's got 10 touchdowns
but he's
on
at
10
the goal
carries.
line, man. Like,
10 touchdowns for 10
it's
yards.
easy to score those touchdowns.
10
Yeah, it's easy to score those touchdowns when you're down there. Said, why would you discount? No, I mean he's
I'm
had
not
a
discounting
great.
him here. I didn't say he had a bad year. I'm just saying I can't count him as a breakout. The only thing that changed is that he's just getting more carries. He would have the same exact year this year, last year, if Miles Kerrigan wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean I definitely get his point when it comes to that. Yeah, you don't like. That's another thing. This is what like Stephen A and those dudes be talking about. Every time we don't agree necessarily with saying like or putting no guy up there, they would say that oh, you're taking something away from this guy, you're discrediting him. No, we're just saying he's not that guy. He's great, but he's not that guy. You know, that's all it is.
It's the same reason I don't have Perkins. He's getting more carries this year than he got last year, but that doesn't mean he's breaking out. That means they're just using him now.
Mm-hmm. Said Torres is the same way. I described Jamal Williams from Detroit Lions. Doesn't matter getting it all at the goal line for real. What's Torres yard per carry average? Yeah, and he's averaging well. I think he's averaging 4 yards, but it's just like that. He's not even getting utilized. He's not the main back, right? And then y'all's run game situation, we understand why it struggled. Y'all focused on the pass game. You know what I'm saying? Y'all pass blockers. Your run game wasn't that good because y'all offensive lineman ain't been good at blocking up front. You know, so and it's easy for him to score those touchdowns if he's going to be the one getting the carries at the goal line. I mean, this could be vice versa and it's the same thing I was saying about Damani Manuel. If he was the one getting those carries, he would probably have 10 or more touchdowns right now. You know, it's just all about who's getting utilized. And if he's just right there at the goal line, he doesn't have to go through those gritty carries that Damani Manuel has to go through. That's what's going to make an average fluctuate and make another guy look better than the other one. Honestly, if you put him in that role fully, I doubt he does that. Oh, Xavier Eves for sure.
Yeah.
That's another guy's second year who's been nice. All right, so I'll take one more question if you guys have it. Doesn't look like too much is going on, so might have just reached the end of this. It's 10:15 at the moment, so somebody come up with a good question. If you haven't already, man, make sure you smash that like button. I'd be forgetting to tell you guys to do that earlier with the thing. Le'Veon Henry is balling. He just broke the record too. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Week 14, I believe it was. No. Yeah, no, week 13. Week 13 got 10 interceptions. Never been a double-digit interceptor in RFL history till now. Anybody clinch yet? Yeah, it's been a couple teams that's clinched. Celtic Tigers have clinched the division.
Clinched a playoff spot,
Yeah.
but not the division.
Well, yeah, they clinched the playoff spot. The Steamers have clinched the playoff spot.
And I didn't.
Yeah, and you. So that's 3. Those are only 3? I believe those are.
Yeah, those are the only 3 so far. The Snowhawks can get it this week. The Huskies can get it this week, and the Celtic Tigers can clinch their division this week.
Yeah. You said the Celtic Tigers can clinch their division this week?
Yeah, if the Bulldogs lose.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, because they got an auto win, so. All right, yeah, so. All right, guys. Oh, yeah, I didn't check to see if anybody got a question. Oh, yeah, that was it. All right. I was asking because I want to use the graphic for the last question. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna start trying to see if I can come up with a graphic or something for that. But appreciate you guys coming on, watching the podcast, man. Week 15 will be officially starting tomorrow with a big game, man. ARC North, Huskies and the Bulls. I'll be in the booth calling that at 8 p.m. Eastern. Forbes, I appreciate you coming on the podcast here with me, my guys, spitting that mathematical knowledge and letting us know about the playoffs. And we'll see
Yes,
you
sir.
guys for that game tomorrow, man. Hit that like button. That's it. Peace.